DESIblitz.com.
Hi everyone, my name is Palak Rannkka and you're watching me on DESIblitz.com. So I'm kind of like a mixed culture kid in the sense that I'm from India and I grew up in India, and a lot of my music comes from I think it comes from my family because my grandmother was very into music. I remember her singing me to sleep, and that's when I realized that, oh my god, music is such an important part of my life. And then growing up, I went to school, and when we were in school, I went to a convent, and the convent was all about listening to, I think, Madonna and I think Ronan Keating and all these amazing Western pop artists. And I guess that's my influence and my voice culture. So I'm a mixed breed of Indian music and also these influences. And I guess when I listened to all this music, I was like, this is something that really touches me and is something that I see myself doing. But for a very long time, because I was very academic, I never thought of it as a career. And in India, when you're younger, music as a career really isn't a very obvious choice, if you know what I mean. It's not really part of the culture. So I went on to do a commerce degree, and I even pursued chartered accountancy. I was about 18. I had this whole thing oh my god, is this really something that I want to spend my whole life doing? I was like, no, I don't. And I told my parents, and they were very supportive, which is, I think, my biggest blessing. And I just started out performing locally. I mean, I didn't do the CA course, and I continued with my graduation because in India, CA is like a competitive course. So I continued with my graduation and pursued music full time. So I did gigs, I used to perform everywhere, meet artists, literally started from just grassroots. And yeah, it's been quite interesting.
You kind of touched on some of the artists there that had influenced you growing up. Can you kind of explain a bit more on any specific ones that impacted the sound that you have now?
So I'm very, very, my sound and the kind of music I listen to changed over the years. When I was younger, it was a lot of Ronan Keating, it was Cliff Richards, it was literally Madonna. I loved all of that music. But I really found my feet when I was studying music, because I studied pop country and jazz music, and I think Ella Fitzgerald is someone who I've loved over the years, especially the way she sings, and the whole jazz R&B side where we have Alicia Keys, and right now I'm listening to Leanne LaHavis. So that influence of jazz and R&B is something that I always have in my style. Even when I'm singing, I guess my riffs always have this R&B sort of landing, very classic Motown R&B, but I really loved R&B, and I'm kind of I hope R&B pops right now. I really wanted to pop with the charts. But yeah, I think my sound is always, I'm very, very influenced by that.
Are there any artists kind of in mainstream R&B, jazz or pop now that influence you?
So Stormzy's new album, yeah. I mean, he has obviously been in the grime scene, but I feel this current album has influences of R&B, and he's collaborated with India Ari on this one, and I'm very, very, I love the album, I love the collaborations. I also really like Debbie, who's with Def Jam right now. She's I love her sound. I also like Leanne LaHavis. In the jazz, easy listening space, I like Lofi. So I'm listening to a lot of that space right now.
There's a lot of obviously Western artists that you named there. Are there any kind of South Asian artists that have influenced you?
There's this artist called Nikhil D'Souza, and he's not very famous in the sense that he's not very mainstream, but he has a lot of commercial hits in the Bollywood space. I loved his vocal texture. I loved how he used to express the way he used to express vocally, and him, and even obviously Lata Mangeshkar ji, and just listening to him, oh my god, how are you like that? You're just incredible, you're flawless. There's no pitching is perfect, emotion is perfect, all of that. So obviously her. Then I've also really liked Sunidhi Chauhan, who is massive, and I think her live presence is when I was getting into performing live and I used to watch her, I was oh my god, she's like a thunderstorm on stage. She's so into it, and connecting with audiences has always been something I've loved. So she has been a massive influence, especially in the style, because she again had a very Indo-Western style. Listening to these people really helped me find my identity in some ways.
You touched on it earlier. Kind of pursuing music in India as a career is not easy, or it's not kind of traditional. Yeah. Was it harder for you growing up in India in terms of trying to pursue this, or like you said, your parents were very supportive?
Yeah.
But in terms of actually performing or getting the opportunities from companies or online, was it harder for you?
It was harder because this was a very new world for me. I grew up around like very working professionals. I was not practicing for 6 hours in my house. I was not doing that as a young person. I was very into sports, and so it wasn't a very traditional choice for me. In India, I guess the whole idea of not having a very purely academic career is a little bit, it's quite a like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Like how are you going to pay your bills? That sort of stuff. So it's not, I think the validity of a music career in India is still not there. It's kind of getting there, but it's still harder. So it was difficult in the beginning, because when I decided to be a musician, I was like, I've made this decision, but what am I going to do? Like, like I'm from Pune, which is like this town, like this city in India, which is 3 hours from Mumbai, which is where the whole music industry is. And I don't know no one. Like, I literally started from my local churches, man. Like, used to go and find musicians, go talk to people and like get local gigs, and like going to Mumbai for sessions, like just finding artists, finding contacts in the industry, because this is not a very like, it's not a work placement sort of an industry where you do something and you have a work placement and you get somewhere. It's just your network. It's putting yourself out there, and no one tells you how to do it. You just gotta like wing it. So a lot of my career is like winging it.
Kind of moving on to your actual music now, when you figured out kind of you had this voice and you had all these influences that impacted, the way that you sing, did you have to get some training on top of that, or was your actual singing voice just natural?
No, I got a lot of training, and I'm very, very blessed to have found like the right teacher, because she really molded me. Since I was like 8, I knew that this is really something I want to learn, and this is something that sets my soul on fire. But I was always looking for the right teacher, and I never found one. And I don't know, I guess there's a right time for everything, and I believe in the universe and how things align. And I was 15 and I met my vocal coach through a friend, and we just hit it off. It was this chemistry, right? Like, she just molded me, and like the vocal exercises, learning vocal technique, actually taking care of my voice. These are things I learned, and I could see like after like almost like 2 years with her, I was a different person. I sounded different. I could tell that there'd been this, this transformation. And I didn't grow up like training, but I guess those 2 years were like equivalent to like 8 years of training for me, because of the way she molded me and the way she understood my vocal and how to like, grow my range and grow my technique. And even today, I think a lot of what she taught me is something I apply even when I'm performing, or like, because you deal with a lot of things as a performer. The show has to go on, even if the weather's bad, if the monitors are not working, there's a million things happening on stage. And I guess that the training and, being able to take care of my vocal cords has really helped me as a performer and even as an artist.
And obviously the other side to being a musician is songwriting.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to touch on like how you actually get inspired to write a song and your creative process. Do you get influenced by things that you see on the street, experiences that you've been through, and how do you actually get that onto paper and then into a track?
I feel like a lot of the music that every artist writes is very autobiographical. There's always some element of it. So it's been different for different projects. Like when I've been writing for adverts, or like I did a lot of sync work in India. And in terms of my independent music, also it's not completely like my story from start to end. Sometimes it comes from my belief. Like, okay, I want to write a song on love, and this is what my idea of love is. Love to me means setting someone free. That could be a friend, that could be a lover, but it'll have that ongoing in my songwriting.
Are there any songs that you've created which were kind of harder to make because of the emotion in them?
Sometimes it just takes a while for me to find the right lyric. For like the last one, Tuti Hui, right? Like I recorded the track quite a while ago. I didn't release it for quite some time because I didn't have the courage to. Because I felt like this is so vulnerable. Oh my God, this is just so hard to like put out, Of course, as an artist, I've decided to be vulnerable. That's why I am on social media. But sometimes it gets difficult to like just be like, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there completely. So that aspect has been challenging. And with that track though, like I wrote that in collaboration with a friend called Parth. The lyric took a while for me to like vibe on, because I was like, this word is not working, that tune isn't working. And then I delivered it vocally. I recorded it twice because I was like, the vocal needs to be more like emotive. So I do go back and forth a lot, but then I guess I always trust my gut, because when I listen to the first mix, I'm like, this is it. Yeah, I don't wonder. The drums on that track change. So sometimes the production changes a lot, where I feel like we can do more, we can have a heavier sound, and then I go back. So it's a lot of back and forth. But then as part of the creative process, I've also realized that you gotta let it just breathe and go. You can't constantly perfect it, because then you need to know when to detach from your art.
Yeah, well, with like all those experiences that you have like thus far, in the current state, how would you describe your sound?
As an artist, I really like pop soul, but I also don't want to like restrict myself. I just want the sound to like take me, because for me, my lyrics inform my melody. It's not the mostly it's not the melody informing the lyric. I write the words, and the words will take me into the music. So I just let it be like.
Well, on that, would you ever experiment with your sound and go into a completely new genre that you probably haven't explored before? Like you said, touching on before, like Stormzy, off camera, we said Central C, like those kind of grime acts. Would you ever kind of venture into those genres?
I would actually want to try. Like, I don't know if I'm a very bad rapper, but I do at some points want to try, because when I listened to Stormzy's new album, right, it was rap, but it was very spoken word, and it was literally like him. I could literally hear the soul in the elements of his rap, and I know it's not really, the commercial Stormzy we all know, but it's just him. So I wouldn't really mind experimenting. I'm open to that, because I think I work with different people. I work with a different producer sometimes, and then they bring their influences. So I'm quite open to wanting to try that out, at a certain point in my career.
I think it's quite hard for some South Asian artists to kind of break through into mainstream genres, just because there's not a stigma, but there's a label attached to them that they have to stick to kind of one genre. But obviously you do have artists, Sidhu Moosewala, like Diljit Sand, AP Dylan, who are kind of venturing into, the mainstream industry.
Diljit played Coachella this year, which was massive, and he's like totally South Asian. I feel like these conversations have, and I'm very happy to see that we see more diversity in the industry, because that's really something I champion. Like, I feel like, I was just discussing this with someone yesterday. I was like, it's so nice to see people of all colors, just at least these conversations have begun, these changes have been made. And like, we always have this discussion, because I'm studying music business at University of Westminster, and we always have this discussion about Joy Crooks, who's like, she's part Sri Lankan, part Irish, and she looks like pretty brown, and she's quite brown even in her, the way she presents her art. She wears a lot of the outfits, the fashion is extremely informed by her Sri Lankan heritage. And I guess 10 years ago, maybe if she would have been there, she would have just been labeled as a South Asian artist. But now, these conversations are changing, and I'm very happy to see that, and that's something that I want to champion in every way.
Yeah, that's what was kind of going on to as well in terms of diversity. And there are, I think, a lot of South Asian male artists who are breaking through, especially from India, and even Canada as well, who are Punjabi. But there's not a lot of actually South Asian women who are in mainstream genres. Like you said, there are say British Asian singers who are breaking through, but not a lot that come from South Asia. How do we actually change that? Obviously, there's social media and there's awareness and there's networking, but in terms of the musicians themselves, so for you, how do you want that to change?
I think women in the music industry is also a huge conversation that we keep having. Like, we talk about diversity, and we talk about how we're making it more diverse for women, but we're just increasing it by very minimal percentages. Like, okay, 2% increase for diversity for women, but under women, there's like so many kinds of women. Like, so a lot of women just compete under that 2%. So the diversity, like when you talk about inclusion and diversity, I feel like it isn't enough. There needs to be more categories. There definitely needs to be more effort in those ways. And I guess as women, like, we just need to own ourselves. And I believe that, I'm a feminist. So women also have, like, I think, internalized sexism that they need to, like, literally, like, look at. And I think as people, we just need to evolve to really be able to do that in every way, to just own ourselves as we are.
Can you kind of tell us about any projects that you're currently working on, or any future maybe albums that you may have coming out?
So I literally just did this very cool track with this guy called Josh Smith, and it's a very chill hop. We were talking about changing my sound. This is literally not my sound. Like, I'm an R&B girl, but he has a very like dance house sort of a track, and I top line for him, and that's coming out in June. It's called What Happened to Us. It's very different for me, but I'm super excited about it. I also wrote a track with 2 other songwriters called Belong, which talks about identity and talks about finding a space to just belong somewhere. I think it's a track all about like following that journey within and without. So yeah, I'm looking forward to releasing that too as well.
And within your career, obviously, it's still going on at the moment, and you've had a lot of turning points, a lot of viral hits. But ultimately, in the future, when you look back, what could be the ultimate goal for you within music? Like we said with Diljit doing Coachella, that was a historical, performance. But for you, what would be kind of the pinnacle of what you would want to achieve?
Eventually, I think wanting to have my own venture someday that supports artists and that helps them actually make money on the music side of it, either in the publishing space, or haven't still made that call because I'm starting music business and it's very exciting. So there's both aspects to me, which is one is the business side and also the art to collaborate with bigger artists and to actually even win the Grammy for India. So it's always been both. But yeah, I guess I'm young, let's see.